you're Thank you. If you are unable to attend a session now, don't worry, because we are going to have this in June and July as well, so you can attend the session in June or July. Also, as you heard, this session is being recorded, and we will be sending out the recording of the session so that you have access to it to listen to it again if you would like. A few quick housekeeping items. You're all muted, and we ask that you stay on mute unless you have a question, and then you are welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question. We also ask that you mute your video. You can also ask questions via the chat function if that's more comfortable for you, so please feel free to utilize the chat. Everyone should have access to that. And now I would like to introduce our presenter and the topic. April Patton is our presenter. She is Associate Director in Career Management for the W. Carey School of Business, and she leads the team of career coaches working with students across all of the specialized master's programs in W. Carey. In addition to team management and strategy, she ensures consistent quality across all programs, staff development, and program design that fits the needs of each unique program. April believes partnership with career management is crucial for student success, and the earlier this partnership begins, the better. Working closely with the career professionals on her team has a tremendous impact on students' ability to tell their stories, represent themselves well, and compete efficiently for roles that fit their values, skills, and motivations. In addition to her 16 years in career management, she has extensive industry experience in recruiting, talent management, and online applicant tracking systems, as well as expertise as a certified career management coach, university career coach, MBA career coach, and professional resume writer. She holds a BBA in Management and International Studies from CMU and a Master's in Education and Human Relations from NAU and a Certificate of Global Advocacy from ASU. So please welcome April for this excellent session.
Right. Thank you so much, Kelsey, for that introduction. I am so excited to be here and have the opportunity to speak with you. As mentioned, I normally work with our students in WP Carey, so I'm very excited to be able to share my knowledge around this topic university-wide. And so, as mentioned, we're going to be talking about job search strategies, including an approach to include return to home country as well as other countries in your strategy. So I'm a pretty informal presenter, so I would encourage you as we go along in this presentation that if you have a question or if you have something that you'd like to add as we go along, feel free to jump in. You should be able to unmute your microphone to be able to do that. You also, if it's more comfortable for you, are welcome to type any of your questions or comments into the chat. I'll be able to see those, and if we don't have an opportunity to answer those as we go, we'll catch anything remaining at the end. But feel free to type them in as you go so that you don't forget what your questions might be, and we'll try and address those as we can. So as mentioned, I work with our specialized master's students and have had a really great opportunity to work with international students during my 7 years here at WP Carey. So it's one of my very favorite groups. So happy to help out with this topic today. So as we get started, I want to introduce something that at WP Carey we refer to as the pitchfork approach. And the pitchfork approach basically means that for a student, you want to think about incorporating a search involving jobs in the United States, as well as jobs in your home country and jobs in other countries. And so today we're going to talk about the different prongs of the pitchfork approach throughout. So one thing that I want to make sure we cover is the reason why we want to encourage students to search outside of the US. I am keenly aware that most students, when they come to the US for their academic studies, do so in part because they're hoping to find employment in the US as part of that. However, as many of you have likely heard, we have COVID-19 happening right now. And one thing that's really important is to stay on top of the different trends and what's happening in the market and how that informs your strategy. And so because of COVID, what we have seen is that this is causing a market shift, which is resulting in high US unemployment rate. And this has a few different impacts that you need to make sure you're aware of. So the first is that the market is now very crowded. So not only do you have other students that are currently in their programs or will be graduating soon or most recently graduated, but you also likely have a large number of other individuals who have experience, who have recently been displaced from their positions. So in response to that, there is increased competition. There is also something that we see around these times of crisis, as we would say, where organizations really start to take a lot of pride in hiring domestic workers. If they think about, this is an opportunity to give back to the country and see, are there workers who are American workers who recently lost their jobs that would be qualified for the positions? And typically in the current climate, the preference is to hire individuals that are domestic prior to considering international applicants. And then of course, because of the market is constricting a bit, there are fewer opportunities in many sectors for all. So when you think about that, typically companies will be experiencing perhaps lower profits, which will mean that they will have a need for less employees. Typically also in this type of climate, there is a tendency to be a bit more conservative. So if they're forecasting out how many individuals will they need to accomplish a certain task, if they had a range in this climate, they're going to typically default to the lower end of that range to be safe and to help safeguard against potentially having to do layoffs in the near future. And so there's also something that you may or may not be aware of, but politically, there is currently some movement in terms of the OPT process, where there is some question about whether or not the OPT program will be able to continue in the future. And because of this, some companies who historically have been open to hiring international students are finding possibly that this is going to be risky. With these types of movements in the market, we really want to make sure that students are aware that it may be more challenging than ever to secure a position within the US. One idiom that we use here in the US, and usually when I'm talking to international students, I really try and avoid idioms, which basically is a phrase that does not tend to translate directly into another language. But I want to introduce it to you because I think it might be something that you hear quite often when it comes to job search strategy. And that idiom is, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. I don't know if anyone has heard this phrase before, but I want to take this opportunity to explain it to you. Basically, what it means is, if you have all of your effort, all of your resources in one basket, and maybe you drop the basket or something happens to it, now all of your chances for success are ruined and you have to start all over again. That is in contrast to an approach where you diversify and maybe you have 2 or 3 different baskets and you're putting equal amounts of energy, effort, resources, time into each of these. If one of these, if something happens to it, then you're still okay. You've got other options, you have other things in the works, you don't have to start all over. Well, I have 3 baskets here on my slide because along with the pitchfork approach, we really suggest that a good job search strategy for an international student includes multiple options, and in this case, 3. So it is going to be your search in the US, your search in your home country, and your search in other countries outside of those 2. And so this approach ensures that you don't put all of your time and energy into just one plan, which typically we refer to as plan A. So if that doesn't work out, then you have to start pursuing the other plans. But what we have found is that students who wait to pursue the plans until after they've already found out that plan A isn't going to work are at a big disadvantage. They typically will struggle to find the ideal role that they're looking for, and they also struggle to find the salary that they're hoping for. So what we would suggest is right from the beginning to pursue both plan A, B, and C, so that you're able to secure those positions and salaries that you want. So to do this, you've got to understand a bit more in terms of home country and other country search. And there's a lot of other sessions happening both today, tomorrow, yesterday that talk about US job search and some of the things that you need to keep in mind. So today's session is going to primarily focus in on home country and other country search. So first, to discuss home country, I want you to know that you have many advantages when it comes to home country search. And some of these include permanent work authorization. You don't have to worry about finding companies that are open to hiring international students because you are a home resident. Of course, communication skills in your native language. You're going to have unique skills and qualifications that you're going to be gaining or you've already gained through your US education. And these tend to be highly valued in your home country. And of course, you have firsthand knowledge of all cultural expectations in that country. Of course, you've probably made some changes to your overall approach and possibly even your materials if you've been in the US and you've gone to some of these other sessions to prepare you for US job search. You maybe started with a CV and you transformed it into a resume. Maybe you started with a resume that had some additional information, maybe a picture, maybe some things that traditionally in the US we don't have. You might have removed those. And so if you think about your home country job search, you want to make sure that you are creating your resume or your CV that is in line with the expectations of your home country. And so it's very likely that you will have multiple versions. And so however you want to organize it, but I find that my students benefit from having 3 main folders to organize their job search. So they might have one that's labeled US job search, another that's labeled home country, and then other folders for other countries. And they can then keep everything nicely organized there and really be able to keep track of what's going to work well, depending on where they're applying and what they're pursuing at that moment. You'll also want to reflect on the cultural differences that you probably noticed when you first came to the US. You want to make sure that your home country strategy is more in line with your home country expectations than the expectations of the US. So you likely have made some changes in terms of how you introduce yourself, how you interact, how you network, all of those different styles that you have that are really strongly tied to culture. You're going to want to sometimes revert those back to what they were before you started your US search. And then of course your network, you've heard in the US is extremely important to your success with job search, but it's also very, very important in terms of your home country. I find that relationships are one of the most universal pieces we see in job search, whether it's home country, other country, or US job search. And so you want to make sure that you are maintaining and reconnecting with your network at home. So that can include past professors, family, friends, even past colleagues, coworkers that you've had, supervisors that you've had. The more you can make sure that these individuals are up to date on the skills and achievements that you have had since you talked with them last, the better. And also to make sure that they are aware of what types of opportunities you're interested in. So I would love to now launch a poll to get an idea of who is in the room. So if you are an international student, would you please indicate for me where you are from? So you should see a poll pop up. Go ahead and choose an option. If you don't see where you are from listed, please select other and type into the search box to me where you are from. Looks like we still need a few people to participate. So far we have China, India, Venezuela, Egypt. Taiwan, very good. Okay, just maybe one more minute to go ahead and fill out the poll if you would. Mexico, excellent. All right, so what I want you to start thinking about as we finish up the poll and allow the last few to respond is some tips that you might offer. So as I had mentioned, you are already an expert in home country job search. But the other piece of today's presentation is other countries. And so what I find is on these types of calls and trainings, there is a great opportunity for learning amongst the attendees. And so, for example, someone who currently is from China might be interested in positions in India or in Venezuela, for example. Alternatively, someone in India might be interested in positions in Mexico. And so what I would love to do, and we can go ahead and end polling because I think everyone who has wanted to respond has done so. So you can see the options there that came in, and we can stop sharing those. But I would love now to just have a quick discussion around some tips that you would offer. So knowing that you're an expert on your home country and some of the cultural expectations around how you apply, how you network, what the process looks like, I would love for you all, if you want to unmute your microphones and unmute your videos if you're comfortable doing so. I would love for each of you to just share even one or two tips that someone who is considering job search in your home country would need to know. So let's go ahead and do that now. Any brave volunteers before I start randomly calling on attendees?
Hello.
Hello, Claudia. Would you like to share?
Yes, my original country is Mexico, but well, I lived in Spain for a while too, and in Chile for a while too. So I can tell you that right now, I recommend all of us, if we want to network, to use LinkedIn because it's the source in all of our countries. It's a very important relationship platform as it is in the United States. So what LinkedIn does is that you can get into different platforms in the areas that you want to be contacting people. So don't hesitate to use the same LinkedIn platform to connect with the people that you want to connect. And the format that you use to do so is very similar to what you would do here. That is find a person, try to set an appointment or to contact them by messaging, but at the same time being personal so they immediately know why you are approaching to them and where are you from, or if you are a student in ASU, let them immediately know that you are a student so they can feel kind of confident who they are talking to.
Wonderful. Thank you for those tips. Who else would like to share? Shirasri, would you like to share with us something about applying in your home country?
Yeah, sure. To speak to you honestly, I was not really looking forward to applying for jobs in my home country because I'm mainly interested in academic positions and getting through after my PhD in United States. It's really difficult given all the situations and the reservations and I mean, there are a lot of drawbacks in getting directly into any academic position. So
Sure.
I don't know what to leverage and how to do that job search so that I have, I mean, a more immediate, stable kind of job life.
Sure. So if we think about, though, that we might have some other students on the call that would be interested in applying in your home country, would you have maybe even just one tip that you know as someone who's from there that would be perhaps helpful to them if they were going to pursue that?
Well, I would say, especially for academic positions, because I have served in those positions in the past, it's better to look into the government sectors because those are the most secure jobs. So government websites of college service commissions, which recruits professors, assistant professors, which is the first level of entering into a college or university level job. And keeping tab on their deadlines or whether they are taking any interviews in the coming years or so, because interviews don't happen every year. Um,
Mhm.
so so yeah, going through government job profiles and government websites who are the recruiters.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. How
All right.
about us, Sushu Fu? Would you have 1 or 2 tips that you could share?
Yes, sure. And I think right now it's difficult for international students to hunt for jobs in the US, but I think it's also great to find jobs in our own country because we have some different cultural backgrounds and very flexibility. So I think it's time to look for jobs in our own country. So for me, I think the different one is that the resume is different. So I think we gotta look for some information about how to create our resume to meet requirements in our own country.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Thank you.
So from your awareness of your country, what would be some tips for someone who wants to apply there in terms of what's expected on the resume?
So, for example, in the US, there are cover letter and resume, but in my country, there's something different. Like there's only resume, not cover letter.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's time to look for some information about how to build up our information about career.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So that's an excellent point. You're absolutely right. Each company has their own expectations when it comes to application materials and the process. And so what I'd like to move to now, and thank you so much for those who shared. If you have any additional tips for your country, if you would type them into the chat, that would be excellent. And then everyone is going to be able to view those. And feel free to do that at any time. But now I would love to transition to share with you some resources. So just as you had mentioned, you know, there are a lot of different expectations, and sometimes it's hard for you to know what they are. And, you know, while I said that you are probably already an expert on applying in your home country, if you have not looked for a job in your home country before, there may be some things also that are still new to you in terms of those expectations. And certainly, if you expand your search to include other countries that you've not yet lived in, there's a lot to learn in terms of those expectations. And additionally, there is a lot to learn in terms of where do you find those positions. We know that in the US, oftentimes as ASU students, we're looking at Handshake. There's a lot of other job boards and job sites that we can use here, but sometimes that's hard to identify for other countries. And so the rest of the presentation, I'm going to share with you a lot of different resources, as well as talk to you about what could be some great next steps that you can consider as you approach this. So our next slide, I just wanted to highlight the immense amount of opportunity that there is. I think sometimes it's very easy to focus in on just the US job market, but there are 195 countries in the world. So I always say, why limit yourself to just 2? And of course, those 2 traditionally are the US and your home country. But every country has opportunities. And so I think it's worth adding that additional approach to your strategy. So when you think about 195 countries, I think it's very easy for that to quickly become overwhelming as you think about, well, what would I apply for? What country would I even start with? And so I usually tell students to think about, where you might have some natural advantages and matches to certain countries. So first, of course, is work authorization. If you know that you already have work authorization that allows you to work in other countries, that would be one of the first things. Many of our students will have dual citizenship, or there might be some agreements with their country in terms of work authorization that can be very advantageous for you. The other is to think about language. And I am always amazed at our international students, because you always can speak at least 2 languages, but oftentimes you can even speak more than that. And so think about what other countries speak the languages that you know. That will give you an advantage, especially when it comes to being able to communicate with that country well. And of course, unique skills that you have probably from your US education that perhaps are in short supply in a particular country. So if you're following the market trends and you see that a particular country really is struggling to fill positions in a certain area because it might need some very specific skills, and you have those skills, that would be a great option for you to pursue. And of course, favorable political climates regarding immigration are always helpful. I also like to tell students to think about the network and relationships that you might already have. So perhaps you went to undergrad with some other students and you know that they're now in certain countries. That's going to be very helpful. You also can search for in-market alumni through the ASU Mentor Network. Claudia mentioned to us earlier LinkedIn. And so you can do some searches to see where ASU alumni currently are. And if you see that there's a large population of alumni in a certain country, that's going to be really helpful for you as you start your networking, and also as you start developing an understanding of what to expect and those expectations. And of course, work styles and culture is also something important to consider. If you are considering going to a country to work there, you're probably also going to live there. And so you want to think about what's a great match for how you like to live and your style and your approach. And so there's a great resource that I want to share with you around that specifically. It's called Globe Smart, and it allows you to map your personal and cultural style to various different global countries' work styles. So this is often a fun one that students can start out with, to identify, are there countries that I would naturally fit really well with in terms of their cultural expectations. They also have resources for remote work, global teams, and managing differences. There's a few links here, and we'll send out the presentation so that you can access these at a later point. So when you do their assessment, they will give you some results similar to what you see on this screen. So I find it to be a lot of fun, and they offer, free trials for students. So feel free to check that out. The other piece we talked about, it's important to know what are the expectations when it comes to, do they want a resume and a cover letter, or do they just want a resume? What are the other things that go into your job search? So this particular website, International Student, and again, we'll have the links for you after the presentation, has 5 different work guides that they offer at no cost. And they really dig into these particular areas: the US, the UK, Europe, Australia, and Canada. And they cover application procedures, job search tips in those countries, CV and resume expectations, what are the customs when it comes to interviewing, and overall cultural considerations that you'll want to think about if you pursue that market. So this is a great one. We also have some specific job sites. So if you're interested in looking for jobs in India, this is a great site. It has salary trend insight. It has domain-specific CV and resume samples, as well as cover letter samples. It also has a very neat algorithm-based CV evaluation tool that will give you feedback on how good your CV is and some adjustments you might want to make. And it also has an alumni database where you can choose your school and then see where alumni are working in terms of different countries. So that can really be helpful as you're assessing the network that you might have. Careerforum.net is a career site for our Japanese English bilingual job seekers. I don't know if anyone on the call, but you may have friends that would fall into this category. They have some Career Forum job fair events that are excellent, as well as online job postings and career advice. There are 2 partner sites that I want to share with you: overseasjobs.com and internationaljobs.com. They have international job boards as well as a research portal and a lot of really great advice. So they have advice regarding work visas, working abroad, cover letters, some insider tips on different countries, international employment, and international resumes. So really comprehensive. And then JobRank has a number of different lists that are very helpful. So they have the top 100 links, so top 100 job sites, job boards, links to recruiters and headhunters, temporary staffing agencies, and then of course they have some job sites by country. And so if you see what you're interested in here, you might think about, oh, I'd really love to work in Europe, but I don't know where I would find those opportunities. So you could use this link to access that information. We also have a really great partnership with a company called Lock-In China, and they host job fairs, and they also have country and city guides on their site. They have full-time jobs as well as internships in China, and they're in a number of different categories. So you can see on the slide that it's really diverse, from IT all the way to art and design. And Lock-In is a third-party agency that is contracted by companies, and they have some really large clients, which is impressive. There's no cost for the student to use the agency. The agency receives a commission from the companies who hire them. They source overseas talent for positions all over China, and they also provide resources that prepare students to interview well and present themselves well. So not only are they able to connect you with employers that are potentially interested in you, but they're also able to help prepare you to make sure that you're meeting the expectations of what they'd like to see for their clients. So this is a great one. And then of course we have some large job boards that you probably are already familiar with from your US job search, but did you know that they also have sites in particular countries that will then allow you to see job opportunities in those countries? And so, for example, Indeed has all of these linked job boards that you can access. Monster is another website that is in the US, but also has specific sites for countries. And if you look down at the bottom of this slide, they also have some partner sites, which are not part of Monster, but they're linking you to for some other opportunities. And then Career Builder, one of the other large job boards for US jobs, again, has an international site. And so you can see that there's a lot of different sites here, as well as some niche job sites, which are not branded as Career Builder, but they are around the world. And so these are all really excellent to identify job opportunities themselves. Now, Grad Connection is a large website that was built specifically for university students and also recent graduates, so that you can search for career opportunities and jobs. Because it's specifically for university students and recent grads, it tends to be a really great choice for students who may not have as much work experience or who are just starting out in their careers. So more entry-level positions are available here, and they operate in a number of countries. Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, South Africa are a few of them. And then InnerStride is a really great resource that we subscribe to here at ASU that offers a great deal of information. And to the previous point about, you really need to make sure that you understand the country and their expectations. What are they expecting, which might be different from the US. This is a really amazing resource. They have insight on visa, immigration news and updates. They have international job postings. There's also country insight through the career profiles. And this is the piece that I really love, because it gives you some information regarding those expectations that they have, and some adjustments that you'll need to be aware of for your job search there. They also have some live webinars that they offer, as well as some recordings, and also some advice on conducting an international job search. And if you're interested in learning more about InnerStride, there's actually going to be an overview, I think right after this session at noon from 12 to 12:45, that will go in deeper about InnerStride. I believe it's a live demo that will show you how to use that, that system. And so I really would recommend that you consider attending that webinar. if you haven't already registered for it. And so the last thing that I want to make sure that you understand is what some great next steps might be for you. So of course, looking at the different resources that I've shared with you, I know that we went through them quickly because the short time frame for our presentation didn't allow us to really pull each of them up and go through in depth. But I'm hoping that it exposed you to what they are for and some of the main pieces that they offer. And then as you click into them, you should be able to explore them and see what, what might be a great fit for you and what you're looking towards. So in addition to that, I would love for you to work with your career coach. So as an ASU student, you have access to a career coach. And so they can help you to form your strategy for job search in your home country and in other countries. And I know sometimes that's not the plan A, but I really would encourage everyone that you really want to be conducting both your US search, your home country search, and other country search parallel, meaning at the same time. That will open up the greatest number of options for you. And it will also ensure that you don't miss out on great opportunities because you wait, too long. You can access through your career coach detailed information and job guides regarding, China, India, Canada, a lot of the countries that we work with frequently in terms of students. And a lot of us have been here for a while and have worked with a number of really amazing students. And so along the way, just as we've shared information with them, they've shared information back with us. And so we are more than happy to share those stories with you, as well as those tips. And of course, we can help you understand the edits that you'll need to make to your application materials, as well as your overall approach to match the country that you are interested in pursuing. And so the next step that I would suggest overall, after you check out the resources that I've shared with you today, are to make an appointment with your career coach to really talk through your strategy when it comes to return to home country and other country search, as we refer to as the ASU pitchfork approach. So I would love now, this is the last slide that I have for you in my presentation. I would love to welcome you to ask any questions that you might have. So I see we've got some links in the chat. Thank you so much for putting those in, Kelsey. Does anyone have questions for me? You're welcome to unmute your microphone if you would like to ask them directly, or you may type it into the chat box. We've got about 10 more minutes, or 5 or 10 minutes that we can spend to answer questions.
Great. Well, if there aren't any additional questions, thank you so much, April. Again, feel free if you want, in our last couple minutes while I'm wrapping up, if you do have questions that pop into your mind, feel free to put them into the chat. But thank you, April. You'll see in there are links to all of the seminars for the International Student Career Development, the entire series, so you can go in and find the seminars that are of interest to you. And as we, how do I contact my career coach question? Fabulous question.
That's an excellent question. I'm so glad you asked because I'm sure that others are wondering as well. So you can make an appointment with your career coach via Handshake. So I am guessing that most people have access to Handshake because I think that's how you registered for this session. So what I can do is I'm going to see if I can pull up Handshake here on my end. I have to do this authentication that it's asking me to do, but I'm just going to show you where you can find the appointments, and hopefully that is going to be helpful to you. So let me just go ahead and pull that up on my end, and then I can show you.
Perfect. And I have put the link to Handshake, which, as April mentioned, everyone should be familiar with. Oh, perfect.
All right, so here we are. This is the Handshake homepage. So if you click on Career Center right here on the homepage, there's also a link up here in the corner, but we can click on Career Center. And then what it's going to do is bring us to a page where it has what can we help you find. And there's some great boxes here that you can go to, but happily, the first option is appointments. And so if you click on that, it's going to take you to a page where you can see any past appointments you've had. But if you've not been in yet, you'll just start by clicking the Schedule a New Appointment button. And when you do that, it's going to ask you to choose a category. So this is going to populate depending on what student you are and what school you're a part of. So I'm in the system as a WP Carey student as my test account. And so you can see that it has WP Carey School of Business as one of the categories. If you're in the Fulton School of Engineering, for example, you would see Fulton. If you're in Thunderbird, you'd see Thunderbird. If your school doesn't have a specific career center, then you would click one of these others in terms of ASU students, or if you're online or an alumni, you would choose the option that's best for you. And then it's going to walk you through the process of choosing the type of appointment that you would like. So hopefully that helps answer your question to be able to make your appointment. Great question.
Great. So as we mentioned, we will be sending out the recording of this as well as a survey to evaluate the session and provide feedback. So when you do get that survey, we would love if you fill it out to give us feedback to improve the sessions in June and July. If there aren't any more questions, thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you for spending this time with me. I loved being able to share the information. I hope it was helpful.
Great. Thanks, folks.